Hello, welcome to the second part of our tutorial. So for the first thing that we are going to talk about is will be about the performance and the structure of the object in Blender. So we are going to start with everything in Blender are created from quad. Quad is a four-side shape formed from the vertical when it connect together, and when the vertical connect together it form edge, and when the edge form the four edge it can create face that turn into a quad face. And when the quad face connect together, it create the shape in Blender. As you can see in this picture, the default cube in Blender is have six quad as its structure, and when six quads connect together, it form the default cube of the Blender shape in the Blender. So what is the purpose of the number of the quad or the count of the quad? The purpose of the quad is when there are more quads, the object will appear in the appearance that look more smooth and more realistic. For example, let's take a look here. As you can see on the left side, here is had a lower quad count numbers. So when we render it or when we preview it in Blender, we can see that we know the object is a sphere shape, but it appear in the poly it appear like a polysphere. It has some sharp edge and it's not smooth. But on the other hand, when we multiply or we increase the number of the quad, the object will appear in the appearance that look more realistic and more smooth. However, as you can see here, when you use the lower quad numbers, it's beneficial more than using the high quad numbers in Blender. The reason is the lower the quad number, the more it's better for your 3D rendering performance or your computer performance. Because on some computer with I would say low hardware powers, when it have to previews or render a high quad object, it will take too long time, or it will take a lot of resource or RAM of your device to render it. So every time when you creating anything in Blender, use appropriate amount of quads. Do not try to go over. When you have the the million count of quads, yes, the object will look more realistic, but it will take a lot of your hardware powers, and is your work won't finish because you will take too long time to render it. So use the appropriate amount. You don't need a thousand count of the quad to create the object. Sometimes you just need 100 count for 100 count of quad to create one object. And here's the comparison between the low quad and high quad objects. Here's I use the smooth shading mode to show you the difference between low quad and high quad count. As you can see that it have only small difference that you have to really look into the object and you will able to see it. But when you just look it as the normal outcome, it have only small difference. And if you look into the performance or the render time, the object on the left side, this one, which is the one that have lower quad count, this one take a lot a lot shorter time to render. But on this one on the right hand, it will take a lot more longer time to render. To give you an example, this one might take only just 10 seconds, but this one it can take you around 1 minute to complete if you decide that you want to use the high count. of high quad count object as your renders. So here is what you need concerns about the number of quads and your computer performance. And to summarize it, use the appropriate amount of quad. Do not try to have the too much quad because it's not gonna benefit your workflow and also your render time. Even you have a strong computer, a high-end computer, having a lower quad count is more beneficial because you can go to do anything more faster because you don't have to spend long time waiting for your project to be rendered. Okay, so let's begin the next part, which is the tutorial about how you can create sign in Blender. Okay, so welcome to the second part of the second tutorial. So what we are going to do is we are going to sign here. So first we are going to import the picture that we have exported it from the Adobe Illustrator, which is the .png file of our sign. We are going to build the viewport in the axis first, and then we are going to import the image as reference by using the command Shift A, the command, the shortcut Shift A, and then we are going to go this one, which is image, and then reference, and then we will pick sign that we are creating. Now the sign will be added as a reference, and to set up the sign as a reference, let's see, let's import the cube first. Now as you can see that the cube is blocking the view of blocking our view to see the sign reference. So we are going to add the opacity to it by click on the sign and then go to the data, which is this picture icon, and then we are going to click this box, which is a opacity box, and then we are going to choose the depth to be front, and now the picture will always appear in front when we view from any angle. And to make it for us to be able to see the box, we are going to decrease the opacity down be to around 0.5. Yeah. Now let's adjust the box to match our sign scale. So let's say that you design the sign that have the length at 1 meter. So you are going to adjust the size of this box to be 1 meter first. So we are going to click on the box here, and on the item menu here you can see that on each axis it has the length, the dimension of each axis. So we are going to adjust the x to be 1 meter and maybe decrease the height of the sign to be at 0.6. Say we want the sign to be at 0.6. And now we are going to adjust the image, which is our reference, to match with the size of the sign. Now when it matches together, now we can design to be accurate as possible. This is the dimension of our, which is 1.65 meter. I will be our length. Now we are going to adjust the depth of the sign. So we are going to scale and z-axis, scale down the depth to scale down the depth of the sign. And now let's see at the property bar here, the axis is at 0.16. Let's say we want 0.15. Okay, now we got the sign that match with the dimension that we want. No, the cube that match with the dimension that we want. And now we are going to turn that cube, this cube into the sign. I would recommend you to do inner part of the sign first because it's more easier. This is an easier way to create a sign. So let's scale down this box to match the inner part first. So let's scale x-axis, scale it until match. Grab tooth, grab it in, grab it in. You can grab the object along the vertex or along the edge by pressing G 2 times, and instead of moving freely, it's still moving. The movement that we moving that we move the object will constrain to the edge. Now it's meshed. Let us just uh, two sides, scale and y-axis. Now it's meshed with the inner part. Now let's apply it. Apply the scale first by using the shortcut Control A. The reason we have to apply the scale first because we are going to use the bevel function, and if you haven't applied the scale yet, you can see that on the item property here, you can see that scale is not at 1, and when you are going to bevel the edge here, you will see that it will bevel for you unevenly. And to fix that, we have to apply the scale first to reset the scale to 1. So let's go to the layout view here. Press Ctrl A and then scale. Now it's go back to 1. Okay, now let's bevel this edge by using Ctrl B. Increase the segment to 5. And for this edge, we are going to use bevel also. And to prevent the edge to grow to at each other, as you can see, because when I bevel these two edges, see that it doesn't go through each other. But for some of you, you might have this issue, which is the bevel go to each other. To fix that, you can bevel it to be as close as possible first, and then in this setting that is pop up, you can tick the box, this clamp overlap here, and increase the width. And now you can see that the clamp overlap will prevent the bevel to go to each other. Now let's bevel this edge also. But instead of 5 segments, we are going to use just one. Now, as we prevent it to go through each other, but now it's overlapping on each other. We don't want the vertical to be overlap on each other. So we are going to merge it into one. Better have the function to clean it by first we are going to select all the vertical of the model by pressing A, and when we press M, it will open the merge function. In here we are going to pick merge by distance, and you can see that on the merge distance is so that is 0.0001. So any vertical that's close to each other at 0.0001, it will merge into one vertical. So now it's fix the overlap vertical. And before we are going to do the outer part, let's adjust the model to match with the reference as much. Now, as it match with each other, we are going to do the next part, which is the outer part. We are going to do the outer part by using the mesh we already have right here, and we are going to duplicate that so we have the ring like this. But in order for us to able to edit that, we are going to separate it into the new object first by pressing P button. It will bring separate menu, and then we are going to select separate selection. Now the ring has become the individual object. As we go back to the layout view right here, you can see that we got the inner part. We are going to name it sign, and the outer part we are going to name it as sign ring. Now we got two objects. Now let's create the sign ring, which is this black part. We are going to go into the edit mode, and then we are going to select all of the mesh that we have, and we are going to extrude that. Some of you might think we are going to use extrude by just pressing E, but as you can see, it's, it's, it's extrudes into the wrong way because we want to extrude every side outward. Some of you might think, let's use scale. This won't fix that because when you use scale, it extrude outward unevenly. There are the function, we call it the extrude menu that we can open by using the alternate and E shortcut. And when they appear, we can pick this one, which is extrude face along normal. And now we can extrude the face outward evenly. We even can tell the blender that we want to ex extrude it out how much by typing the number. Let's say we want to extrude it out around 0.75, 0.075. We can pressing the number on your keyboard 0.075, and you can see that the number will type in and appear on the top left side of your screen. And now as we have already created the inner part and outside part of the sign, the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to add in the text to our sign. And to do that, we are going to use the SVG file that we have exported by pressing Shift, by pressing File menu here and go to Export, and then you are going to pick, no, you are going to use Import, and then you are going to pick Scalable Vectors Graphic piece.svg, and you are going to pick the file that you have export. And when you select the SVG sign, you are going to click import SVG, and now you can see that the new collection appear. In the new collection, it has a lot of curve in here. Now let's organize this collection first. Now let's close the collection, the main collection, hide everything, and now you can see that the sign, the SVG file you have imported is appear in the very small size. But before we are going to set the size, let's delete the part that we do not need first. Is this black part? Delete that. White part? Delete that. And this white part? Delete that. And now we are going to add some depth into this object. So before we add the depth, let's adjust the scale to match with the sign first. So we are going to use scale function here, but as you can see, when you scale it up, it's scale in the way that is hard to manage. That is because all the origin point is at the middle right here. And to fix that, we can move all origin point to that mesh by using the object menu and set origin here and origin to geometry. This will move the origin to the object that you are selecting. And now you can adjust the size to match the reference by going to view from the z-axis at the top right here. And now we can use scale properly. Now it's matched with the sign. The next thing that we are going to do is we are going to add some depth into this letter. To do that, we are going to select the letter that we want to add depth first. In this case, we select the first one, which is E. And we are going to go to the data menu, which is this curve icon. The data menus is always change the icon based on the object that you are selecting right now. And this E letter is import from the SVG file, and now it's not the mesh yet, but it is the curve. So the icon of the data is appear as the line. And in this data menu, we are going to use this function, which is the geometry function. And we are going to extrude by increase the number in the extrude option here. Now you can see that it's got some depth. Let's hide the reference image by closing the eye. Now you can see that E has the depth in of itself, but it's too much depth, so let's decrease the number to 0.005. Now that's better. Let's go for 0.0025. Yeah, that is the best. And let's adjust the size of the other letter also. Give it some depth and grab it up. Now we got the letter and now we got the sign. The next part we are going to do is we are going to start to refine the detail because as you can see now the sign is up here in the low poly model, and to turn it into the high detail model we can do it very fast by using the variable function to control the edge. So let's select the edge, this edge by pressing Alt. Click Alt edge here. And now we are going to use Control B, which is bevel. Say we want to bevel the edge around 0.01. Let's go 0.0025. Yeah, that's better. And let's increase the segment to 2. Now that's great. And do it the same for the inner part of the sign. Take this edge, take this edge, and bevel it. And the next thing that we are going to add is will be the modifier that help us to increase the face count by using the multiplication. That that modifier we call it subdivision surface, which we can add by going to the modifier menu, which is this wrench icon right here, and add the modifier. And we are going to the generate and subdivision surface right here. And now as you can see, There are some edges that haven't controlled yet, so when we add the detail, we losing the detail. And to fix that, we are going to add some extra edge to tell Blender where it needs to smooth and where the where Blender do not need to smooth. So to do that, we are going to go into the edit mode, and right here we are going to add the loop cut like this on this side and also on this side. And we are going to select both loop and move it together by pressing G 2 times it along the edge. And we are going to use the event function, which is E later. The side that the mesh is event at is will be the side that the red dot appear. And then we are going to as close as possible, but not overlap. The reason we need to use the event function because if we do not use them, when we move the vertical or the edge here, you can see that it's not consistent and it's not good for our model. And that is the reason why we event function. Do the same for top part also. And event side same for every side. And also this top part also. Now as we add the extra edge to control the subdivision, you can see that now it's adding the detail properly. And next, let's do for the inner part also. Let's add a subdivision modifier. But at this time, we are going to do it in the more convenient way by using shortcut. By pressing Ctrl 2 or on Mac it will be it will be Command 2. It will automatically add the subdivision surface for you at 2 level. This way is faster as more convenient to add subdivision modifier to your model. Now let's go to the edit mode. And now you can see that Blender requires the extra edge to tell where is need to smooth again. Let's add the edge like this and like this. Now some of you might start to think this is not the quad that I have mentioned in the previous lesson that I tell you that every structure in Blender should build based on quad. And now you can see that on this surface it's not quad anymore. But don't worry because if it's not quad and it doesn't cause the problem for you, such as it doesn't cause any artifact or on the lighting or doesn't cause any error in the outcome or the modeling, it will be fine because if it doesn't have any problem, it means that this program or the Blender can still handle itself and it's know how to work on the thing that you want by itself. So this is just the air to mesh like this. Also on this side. Let's just add top part. We press G so it follow the edge and the event function to control it. And now we got the sign that properly has the detail add in properly and also looks smooth and realistic. Now we are going to do the next part, which is the shading part, which is the part where we are going to add the color into our model. So let's add the color into our model. Let's say that I want the sign to be appear in green color, with the inner part that have the gray color and the text will be black color. To do that, we are going to add a color by going to the shading menu right here. And in here, we are going to add the color into your sign by using the node right here, which you can click the new function here, or you can click new on the material menu on your right side also. And when you click new, this will add the material into your model. And now when you adjust the color, change the color of your model. And let's say that this sign material is created with the plastic material. So let's pick the color first, which is this green color. And to imitate the plastic material, we are going to make this surface to look smooth and also shiny. So we are going to decrease the roughness value down to 0.5 or 0.15. I think 0.15 is better. Now the object appear in the look that look more like a plastic, and you can see that there are some these sharp shading right here because Blender still shading in the way that we call is flat shading. And to fix that, we are going to right click on the model here and choose shade smooth. Now the object appears to be smooth now and look realistic. Let's do this as same as for the inner part. Shade smooth. And now we are going to add the color into it also by adjust it to be a gray color, and the roughness also the same as 0.25, no, 15. Now we got the sign that look like the plastic material and with the right color. We also going to add the material into this text also. Let's click into E, and now you can see that the material of the text right now is appears to be what I would say is it's not using the node yet, and we don't want that because we want to add more detail into it. So we are going to press this button, which is use node on the material setting right here. Now it will use the baseball BDSF node now. Now we are going to adjust the color to be black first, and then adjust the roughness to be the plastic roughness again to add 0.15. And to make our work to be done faster, we are going to link the, the material of this e-text to all the text in on the side. And to do that, we are going to select all text first, like this, and select E the last. And when we do this, we can use the shortcut, which is Ctrl L. It will link the material, which is this function, to the last object that we select, which is the E letter. Now it's link the material, which is this plastic material, to all the text. And when you adjust it, all the objects will follow the same material because it's now linked together. And now we done with the shading part and also the modeling part. So I will demonstrate the other thing, which is how to cut the hole into the sign, because some of you might don't want to use the text but want to cut the hole into a text shape. We can do that also by using the thing that we have right now, which is this letter. This I will demonstrate you with the E letter here. So you can, so first you are going to increase the depth of this letter to be higher than the depth of the sign. So the letter go through both sides of the sign like this. And in the modifier of the inner part of the sign, you are going to add a new modifier which called Boolean modifier, which is in the generate menu, and Boolean is will appear on here. And in order for you to be able to use this E to cut the whole the sign, you are going to turn it from the curve into the mesh first by click E and right click and convert it into mesh. Now you can select the inner part of the sign, and in the Boolean function here, I'm going to use the different mode of the Boolean. And for the object, you can click on the eyedropper icon right here and click on E letter. Now you have created the hole into the sign. But now you can't see that because E is blocking your way. You can adjust the E to appear in the appearance more desirable for cutting the hole by selecting the E letter, and in the data setting, right? No, and we are going to go to the object setting right here at the viewport display. We are going to change the display as texture to display as Y. And now we can see to the object and we can see the hole that it made. In the past, when we have this problem, which is the artifact that created by the the mesh that we call it Ngon, or what I have mentioned to you before, that everything in Blender should be based on quad structure or it will cause an error. Now you can see that sometimes when it doesn't have quad structure, it can cause this lighting glitch. And to fix that, in the past we have to do a lot of work to fix the mesh. But now there are some there are some simple option in Blender that help you to fix this problem. We call that shade auto smooth right here. And when you pick the shade auto smooth function, it will still smoothing the shading of your object and also help you fix some ingrown artifact or ingrown glitch of the lighting. This solution you can use is for temporarily inside the Blender because it helps you to be able to do the render correctly. But I would not recommend you to do that if you have to export the model and to use it in another program. It's because it will cause a problem because the mesh is not correct. But in this case, we just want to design in the Blender, so this method is usable. As I have demonstrated the E letter for you, you can follow it. You can follow the other. You can do it the same way on the other character by yourself. Before you are going to do it by yourself, I'm going to demonstrate it again on the X laser. Increase the size. Go to the object first. turn it into mesh using Boolean function. Click on the object that you want to cut. Change its view or display into Y. Now you make a hole. Okay, now as we have finished the modeling part and also shading part, the next part is will be how to create lighting for your sign. Okay, so before we are going to go into how we can create lighting and shader for our renders, let me introduce you to lighting setting first. To create lighting in the real world, we are going to say that in the real world we have two types of light, which is hard light and soft light. The hard light is the light that I was you can say that it's the light that creates the sharp shadow and it creates a strong contrast on the object, and that is the reason that we call it hard light. And another light we call it soft light. The soft light is I would say the light is more spread, so the object that interact with the light appear in the way that is look less contrast and is look more smooth and aesthetic. And the way that we can create a hard light and soft light is here. The hard light you can remember it as the hard light is the small light and the soft light is the big light. What I mean the small light is if the light source have if the light source size if the light source size is smaller than the object, when it casts a light on the object, it will create a hard light on the object and it will create a strong contrast on the object. On the other hand, if you use the light source that's really big and it's bigger than uh, the object that you are going to take the photo of, you will see that your object will have the soft light on it and it will be appear in the way that it look more less contrast. And now we are going to apply this knowledge hard light and soft light to create the lighting setting that we call 3-point lighting. As you can see on this picture here, the black the black line at the back is the background and the black circle here is the object. In the 3-point lighting, we are going to have three light in the scene, and they have to and we are going to have one light that we call is point light. It's the light that have the strongest light, so we can highlight the the unique part of the model or the of or the subject. And for this one, it will be the light that we call fill light, which is the light that going to fill the shadow out of the object, because the shadow that created from this light it will be too dark and too strong. This light will help eliminate the shadow to make it look softer and less dark. And this one, which is the last light, we call it rim light. Rim light, the purpose of it is a light that casts at the back of the object, so this object have some white outline around it to isolate it out from the background. So if you use the setting of the light correctly, the object that you take the picture of it should appear in something that look like this way. It have the highlight part, and the shadow is got filled out by the fill light, and it have some white edge to help it to be more isolated from the background by the rim light. So let's apply this knowledge of the hard light, soft light, 3-point lighting into our work, and let's see the result. So Now we are going to apply the knowledge that I have teach you about the three-point lighting into our sign render. And to do that, we are going to change the orientation of our sign first to be standing. And to do that, we are going to create a parent for our sign first. So maybe first, let's say to, we want all of the object to follow the transformation of the inside part. Like you want it to follow when it's turned like this. You can do that by first you are going to select all the thing that you want it to follow first. This is outer part and this six. And you are going to select the inner part of the side, the last. So when you use the shortcut which is Control P, which is the shortcut for set parent, you can select the option set parent to the object, which is the object that we select the last. And now if we click on the inner part and we do any transformation, everything will follow it. So let's turn the sign up for 90 degree and let's pull it up a bit. Yes. Now let's set up the lighting. And to set up the lighting, we are going to change the viewport or to viewport shading. And we are going to delete the default light and default camera right here by pressing X. And now you can see that even though we do not have the light in our scenes anymore, we still have some light on our objects. That's because our world lighting now is the gray lighting. And to create the black room for our lighting setting, we are going to adjust it be black by going to the world setting on the right hand side right here, this globe icon. We are going to decrease the strength value into 0. Now we got the black room ready for lighting setting. Now let's add the light into our scene, which is the first light that we call it dim light. We are going to use the light that is called point light, the light menu, drag it up, and maybe position it around this size front of maybe put it up a bit, turn the way you want. And then we are going to adjust the value of the light, create the rim light, to create the point light, which is the main light first. To do that, we are going to go into the data of the light and we are going to increase the power. In this case, it appear in watt. We are going to increase it to around the point that we think is bright enough for our sign. In this case, I think around 270 is enough, and maybe lower than that. Yeah, that's better. 240 watt. And we are going to adjust the radius of the light. So we have the size of the light. In this case, we want it to be a point light. So the size of the light, it should be smaller than the object. So it creates a strong contrast like this. And next, we are going to add the next light, which is the fill light to eliminate the shadow on the left hand side because now you can see it's too dark on here. So we are going to add the another light by using Shifty to duplicate the light. And we are going to place it here. And for this light, we are going to give it a very big radius, bigger than our object. Is create a soft light on the object. Now for the intensity of the light or the power of the light, it should be lesser than the white light because we want it to only just to limit the shadow, but do not add the extra light into our scene. Which I think 120 watt is enough. And the last light that we are going to add, which is the rim light that help the object to stand out from the background. We are going to duplicate the light from the fill light, and then we are going to place the rim light at the back of the object. I think around here. Now we are going to adjust the strength of the light to close to white light, but lower than the point light, which I think I will go 180. And the radius it should be around the white light. White light is 0.0. For this one, I will give it 0.08. Yeah, a bit bigger. 0.1. And that's better. Now we have the sign lighting good, and it's help to present our sign. Now as we finish the lighting, which is you can see on the top view that we have fill light, that we have point light right here, fill light, and rim light right here. The next thing is we are going to add in the camera for rendering. To add in the camera, we are going to press Shift A and go to camera. And now we are going to view the camera by pressing 0 on the numpad and view the camera. Now you can see that the camera facing the wrong way, and you can bring the camera to face the correct way by using the function we call bring camera to view. The shortcut for that is will be Control Alt and 0 on the numpad. Now we bring the camera to view and we want to adjust the camera a bit, and it would be easier if it follow our view, so we are going to use the camera follow the view by going to the view property right here and set camera to view. Now when we move the view, the camera will follow the view also. Now let us out the camera. And triangle by rendering. Size for me is around here. But for someone want to be serious and you want to have some guide to help you, you can open the guide by going to the camera data right here, and on the viewport display you are going to go to the composition guide right here and click on the third. Now we got View After to help you adjust the composition, and let's say this is final composition. So you are going to disable this camera to view, so now the camera won't follow you. You can see that our setting right now is like this. And now, before you are going to render, let's talk about the render engine. So right now, the render engine that we use is with EV, which you can see right now. EV and render engine is the, I would say, the most lightweight engine because it's the engine that act like your game engine. It's able to render the object in real time. However, in terms of the realistic, is not that much realistic because the light that is calculated based on the metadata that have already been created into the map. It's not created. It's not calculated. I would say it's not calculated. It's not live calculated like the actual real light. So that's why it doesn't have the realistic look. But for someone who has a computer that doesn't have that much computing power, this render engine is the best engine for you. Next, we got the engine that we call the cycle. On this one, the light is will be more it will be more realistic, but on the other hand, it consumes a lot of computing power. And when you use this engine, don't forget to change the device from the CPU to GPU compute, so you can render it faster. Because if you use the CPU as a render device, it will be not strong enough to render this result, and it will crash your render. So be careful. Now let's talk about the render setting. Now for this tutorial I would focus on the cycle because on EV here you don't have to be serious as well about the sample. You can just type the number. I would say around 140 or 240 would be enough, and it have nothing to do much. But for cycle we have a lot of things to talk here. So first, let's see what is the sample due to your render. So here, under the under option here, you can see that we got noise threshold and max sample right here. Let's turn off the noise threshold for now and also turn off the denoise for now. And let's see the result of the render when we the sample as low count. Let's say we use 100. Let's go for a low one. Let's say we use 60 sample, and then we are going to render the sign by pressing the shortcut, which is function button. This will be F12 button. And now let's see the result. Now when you in and see the result of render, let's go lower. See this on low sample, there are a lot of artifacts happen in you render result like this. And to fix that, you can increase the number of the sample count, and the render result is will be appear in the way that it look more sharp, more clean, and less artifact or less noise. So let's try increase the number to 160. Now see the result. And now when you see a result, you can see that there are less noise on the object. And that is what the sample do. The higher the number of the sample, the longer time it will take for the render on each frame. But at the same time, the result that you got it will have the low noise. So the render result is will appear in the appearance that look more sharp, more clean, and also less noise. So let's say, what if we increase the count to 4024? Let's see how long it takes to render. As you can see, the sample count is rising as we wait. In the previous sample count, this time it's already finished the render. But this time, as we use a high number, it's using more time to render the sign, as it has a high sample value. And let's wait to see the result. Now we got the result right here. You can see that the sign appears to be have, I would say, no noise because the count number is very high. Noise is nearly invisible on this result. But on the other hand, we do not want to wait for this long time because it takes too much. So I would say for most of the render, 240 is more than enough. You can go down for 160. And to fix the noise, we are going to use the noise function right here. And when you select the denoise function, you can adjust the setting right here. You can tell it to use the GPU also. And right here, what I would recommend you to use, I would recommend you to use the open image denoise and orbital and normal for passes. The filter, I would say quick, accurate, and use high quality. This option is complicated to learn, so I would recommend that just need to remember that you do need to set it into this option because this is the base setting. If you want some further explanation, you can ask me in the class if you want to know because it will take a long time to explain this. Now let's see the result of the low sample count and the denoise help to render. Now the render is finished. It's fast. And the noise, as you can see now, where we use the low count number, the noise is got eliminated by the denoise function, and the size look good enough for render. So you do not need to use the high number count for the render. You can use the knee noise to help you to clean up the noise that is happening on your scene. On the other hand, there are extra options if you want to go for high sample count. And what you want is render stop to render at some point that the noise threshold is at the desirable amount. In order to do that, we are going to use the function which is the noise threshold right here. When you select this box, Blender will think that if the noise threshold is lower than 0.01, it will stop the sample count. However, how far does it go? For example, it just goes at only 2000 sample, but the noise threshold already reached this level. It will stop render at 2000 sample and start denoising. This way is more desirable if you want to control the noise on your scene accurately. It will take more time to render, but the result will be more consistent. So let's see the result of this method. You can see that the sample count still rising. It's still rising at some point that it starts to go very fast. Now we know that at some point before 4000 sample, the noise threshold already meet the desirable amount that we type in, and it's just stop render and start the noise. And that is how the noise threshold works. And now as we finish the shading part and also the camera setting and also lighting setting, I'm going to demonstrate some extra advanced process in a blender to some of your friends that have the pattern on the sign. Because this the way that you can apply the pattern on your sign or you can pin on your sign, you need to know about the UV unwrap, which is this knowledge is not unnecessary if you still use the blender at the basic level that you apply just only flat color on your object. But when your object now, if you let's say you want to have polka dot pattern on your outer ring, you have to learn how to do UV and wrap. So next, I am going tell to explain you about the UV and wrapping. Okay, now to think about the UV wrapping, you have to think like you are going to make like a paper cut of this ring. In case in this case, you want to add pattern into this ring. If you have to cut this this ring to be open to the flat paper, how you are going to cut it? And the way we are going to cut it, we are going to use the mark seam function. Let's say we will cut this part open, this line open. We are going to show E and go for mark seam. And when it's mark seam, you can see this red line. You can think about this red line as a cutting line to be easier to understand. So let's mark the cutting line. And now when we finish cutting, the next thing that we are going to unwrap the paper that we have cut into a flat paper. So let's go to the shading right here. And in here we are going to add a new node, which is the image texture node. And here we are going to place new. We are going to create the texture, which is we are going to sign. For the resolution, let's go up to 1024. Let's go 1024 times 4. This will be 4096, which is 4K texture. And now on this texture, let's see on the UV page first. So let's go back to layout. And we are going to add a new window by placing our cursor in between in between the window in the black part. You can, and when you place it correctly, you can create a new window. And on this window, we are going to enter UV editor. And in UV editor, we can see the UV or the paper or the map that we have open. So let's open the map by select all and then Press U, which stands for unwrap. And now to unwrap, we are going to use unwrap angle base. Let's adjust it a bit. And now if you cut it and open it properly, this is what you should get from the UV mapping, which is this, I would call it island to match with the vocab in the blender. Now let's arrange the, I would say, the paper piece that we have cut on this on this square plane. So we are going to adjust the size of it a bit by clicking on one vertical on this island, and then we click L, and then we press L is to select everything that link with it, and let's scale it up a bit around this size. For this one, do the same. Grab, scale it. Now this is how we do the mapping for the pattern. Now let's bake the base color onto this map. To do that, we are going to go back into shading right here. And in here, we are going to select the sign right here. And we are going to go to the render and use the cycle engine with GPU compute. And we are going to go to bake right here. And we are going to select bake type to be diffuse and uncheck the direct and indirect. We just want the color. And now let's start baking by pressing bake button. Let's wait. And when you're done with baking, you can see here that the pattern or the color got baked into this plane. And when you plug it in, you can see that it starts to use this green color from the map instead. And to make it used properly, as I have told you to install the plugin that we call Node Blanker before, you can press the shortcut Ctrl T when you're selecting the sign. When you're selecting the sign node right here, hit Ctrl T to add the node that is necessary for it automatically. In this case, we need the texture, coordination, and mapping right here. And now we are going to adding the polka dot pattern onto this sign. So the way that we are going to do that, we are going to save this file, which is this texture file, first by pressing this menu icon here. And under image, we select save as, and let's save it somewhere and name it by pattern. And now we are going to go into Adobe Illustrator and start adding the pattern on the image that we create. Now inside the Adobe Illustrator, let's add some black dot onto this thing that we have created. And now let's save this file and use this in Blender. Let's export it into the .png file. It says iPattern2, seeing the artboard. Export it, use current background, and click OK. Now let's close the Adobe Illustrator and go back to Blender. In here, we are going to select this folder icon here, and we are going to import the pattern that we have created and open it. Wait for a bit for it to load. And now you can see that the pattern got applied on the sign properly. And this is how the image texture working in the Blender. I think this is how I can explain what is UV and wrapping and how you can use it to create a pattern on your sign. So the next part and the last part of the tutorial, I am going to teach you how to create an animation of your sign for your animated render that you are going to do to show the 360 degree of your sign to your viewer. Now let's begin the next part, which is the animation part. Okay, from the last part that we have used the extra window, we can close the extra window by drag this window over the extra window that we create, and now we close that. Now to create the animation, let's start with creating the path for our camera to follow first. So in this case, we want to create the animation by using the camera to goes around the object, goes around the sign. And to do that, we are going to create the curve, which is like a camera track. We are going to add the circle curve first. And when we have the circle curve here, we are going to adjust the size of it to match the position of our camera. Now that it start to mesh with our camera, we are going to reset our camera to be at the center without any adjustment by going to the property of the camera inside the property menu inside the item, drag all over the location, type 0, set of it, also for the rotation and also for the scale. Now we are going to tell the Blender to put the camera on the path and use this as the animation path. And to do that, we are going to using the constraint menu right here. Is this icon. On this constraint menu, we are going to select the option follow path, and then we are going to pick this circle. Now the camera will follow this path. We increase the offset. You can see spinning around the object, and that is what we want. Now next is we are going to tell where the camera should look at. So we are going to tell it to look at the sign by using the track to option here. And we are going to tell it to track to sign. Now if we see camera right now, you can see that the camera is tracked to the sign, and when it move around, it will still track the sign. And this is how we do the animation. Now we are going to do the keyframing part. So before to do the keyframing part, you have to think in your mind first how long you want your animation to be at. Let's say you want your animation to be at 5-second length. So usually we do at 24 FPS. So we are going to go to the output setting right here. In the output setting right here, what we are going to do is we are going to adjust the frame to match with the length that we want. In this case, we want to have 5-second animation. So 5 times 24 will be 24 times 5, 120. So the animation length as you can see at the bottom right here, which is the thing that we call timeline. On here you can see that the highlight is on between the 0 and 120. We are going to create the keyframe on the first and the last frame to create the rotation. And to do that, we are going to go to the constraint of the camera and click on this small dot here to add a keyframe. So at the frame 1, it will start at 0 and at the end at 120, it will end at 100. Add a keyframe. Now let's preview the animation. Now you got the animation of the turnaround sign, as you can see. And to eliminate the repeating frame, you can drag it over for one frame, so when you render it, it will appear in the more continuous way of the spinning. And now, as you finish doing the animation of your sign, the next thing that you are going to do is you are going to render this animation. And to do that, you are going to render this animation into the image sequence. And the reason that we do that, I will show you here. So on the output setting here, we are going to select the output folder first, here, one here. And now let's select the folder that we want to render the animation in. Name it render assign. And select this folder as the destination. And for the file format, let's pick PNG with RGBA. RGB is, if we pick RGBA, it means that we will create the alpha if there are no background at the back. And to use the alpha, we have to go to the render setting right here. And under frame, we are going to select the transparent. Now, as we select RGBA, now when we render the sign out, the background will be transparent. Now let's try render the animation by using the shortcut Ctrl and F12, which is the shortcut for render animation sequence. Now, let's see. You can see that the number of the frames start to increase every time it finishes the period frame render, and it will show how long it takes to render each frame. When you render this way, you can view the progress in the folder. And in here, you can see that it starts to render the sign frame by frame. And let's say that one day when you're rendering, there are some issue like the power got cut out. When you come back to render, sometimes it takes a very long time to render the frame. Now you can see that you can still resume the progress that you have done by rendering start from the frame 14 again. You do not have to go all over again because the power got cut. And this is the first advantage of render as an image sequence. So the next advantage I will tell you and demonstrate it to you when we finish render 120 frame. And now we come back when the render is finished. So let's build the result in the folder. The folder here we got 120 picture of the sign. You can see. Got the picture of the sign turning around. Now let's say during the rendering process, frame 80 got corrupted. If you render in the video format, you will encounter the problem that sign that you have render, you have to go all over it again to just pick the one frame that has the corrupt that got corrupt. But in this case, that you have rendered every frame in the image sequence, you can just go for the frame 80 and just render at the frame 80. And now you just solve your corrupted file issue by just maybe 2 seconds. And that is another benefit of render in image sequence. And now that we got the image sequence render, now let's import this image sequence into Blender and turn it into the video file. You can also do it in the Adobe After Effects as you have done it uh, in the last class that you study with Ajahn Bon. Use media class that Ajahn Bon teach you about how you can make how you can turn the image sequence into the animation in the Adobe After Effects. You can use this. You can use that method to combine this image into the video also. But if you want to use just Blender for your project, Blender have the built-in video editing function for you that you can use it to create to combine the image sequence into video. So let's go for File, New, and go for video editing. And now in here, let's like add an image sequence. And in here, we are going to go for the image sequence of the sign that we have just created. Select all the image in this folder by pressing A and press add to add image strip. Now you have import the image sequence into the Blender. And now you are going to tell that the image sequence is at 120. Now when you preview, you can see that you have combined all the image sequence into a video file. And the next thing that you are going to do is you will render it into the video format. Go for the output here, and now you select the destination of your output, which is I want it to be here. Click accept, and now for the format, you are going to select if MPEG video. For the color management, you can keep it like this, and now you can render it into a video by pressing render shortcut like that you have done it before, which is render animation, Control F5, Control F12, or you can also press it on here, which is in the render menu and render animation. Wait for a bit. And now it's done. You can close this page and open the folder, and your result should be available there. Now you finished your sign and also render the video. And now as we have finished all the tutorial, now you can apply the knowledge that all the knowledge that you have learned and create or adjust the size as much as you want. So let's see. Let's say that you want to add a pole into your sign right now. So you can use the knowledge that you have learned, that you know that this hole has a cylinder shape. We can add the cylinder and maybe decrease the resolution down a bit to around 12 point because that should be enough. Be around 12 vertical, that's enough. And you are going to scale it down and click the sign and go to the object, snap the selection to the active. Now you just move the cylinder shape that you have that had just added into scene to the sign. You're going to move it up, adjust it right here, right here, and now you can adjust the length. Now you just add a pole onto your sign, and you can make a ceiling for it also by adding a cube. And that's how you can apply the knowledge that you just learned to create and also design your own 3D model. And lastly, which is for the dimension, Ajahn might request you to add a dimension. To add a dimension display, you can use the plugin Measure It that I have told you to install at the beginning of the tutorial. Now you do it the same way that I have taught you in the previous tutorial. You are going to click show right here, and now let's say you want to have the dimension of this length to this point, and this point, as I have taught you in the previous tutorial, and you are going to press segment, and now it's add the dimension for you, which is 1.61 millimeter. You can turn down the precision to match by turn down the precision from 2 to 1. Now it's appear as 1.6 meter. And now you can adjust the line a bit in front like this. Now you can add the length of the sign, depth of the sign by select this segment and press the segment button here. Now it's as for you. Adjust this. Now we got the length and the depth. And for the height, can select this segment, this point, and this point to create a segment, and click the segment to create a measurement. For this one is 0.6. Here we can adjust its setting. Now we finish with the measurement, adding the measurement. Now we can render a measurement out into the picture by go into the frame that we want first. Then we want measurement to appear on this frame, which is 21. Want to capture it on this position. You will scroll down to the measure it to right here. You will see that it has the render option here. You are going to press the render button, and as you have used the measure it function and click the render, you can see that now you got the render result, which is on frame 21. You can see that you got two separate result, which is the render out result and measure it output. To use this thing that you have just rendered, you have to combine it in the compositing node right here. In here, you are going to add image node, and this one you are going to pick the measure it output. And then the next thing that you're going to add is be the overlay, which is the alpha overlay. And on here, you are going to combine and use the alpha as a factor. Now let's see the result. If you combine it all properly, you will get this result. And now when you press F12 to render it again, you render it and also compose it, measure it over the sign that you have in there. Now you got the dimension of your sign and also your sign render, and you can save it separately and submit to Ajahn as your sign dimension. And that's it for the tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or ask me in the class. I will explain any question that you have. And if you are interested to learn more about Blender, you can also ask me the question about Blender also. I am appreciate your question and I am free to answer and I always free to answer your question. So see you in the class.